Anyway, what about the Mets? Quickly on the Mets, because they're another team I think we're very interested about with the deadline approaching. Pete Alonso was a name that we talked about a lot over the offseason. Okay, would they extend him? I think it became very clear that that was really never going to happen because his agent's name rhymes with Pot Storis. But Pete has been... Pete's having an interesting season.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good, right? I mean, I would say it's probably not the season he wanted to be having going into free agency. I think there's a version where he was like really tearing it up and it was like, oh my God, Pete's going to, not only do the Mets have to keep him, but someone's going to bid him up like crazy. His slug is under 500 for the first time in his career. I mean, he has 19 home runs, right? And his OPS plus is roughly the same as it is last year, but that has more to do with offense being down. So, Pete's been good, but he hasn't been amazing. But the point is the Mets have been good enough to where it doesn't seem like he is. Now, again, if the Mets were bad, teams would still be very excited to trade for Pete Alonso, but it doesn't seem like that is a thing that is going to happen in the next week.
That is what I think is interesting. For the first 2 months of the season, the Mets were a train wreck, and then Jorge Lopez threw his glove and Grimace showed up to the stadium and Jose Iglesias dropped OMG and everything changed. And now the Mets are in the third wildcard spot, and a player that we had kind of compartmentalized as they will get traded is almost certainly not getting traded because the Mets are in contention. And part of the reason they're in contention is Pete Alonso, even though he has somewhat underwhelmed this year. So I think it's important to if you look at the NL East, playoff odds, the Mets are at 46%.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
They're right now at 46%.
I mean, again, I know they're in a spot, but I guess that sounds about right. Again, like I said this going into the year when we were talking about the Mets as kind of being in this transition period, I was like, listen, they have too many good players to just punt on this year. And the pitching staff they built has put them in a situation where it might cost them. It still might cost them. And I still am looking at that. I'm like, man, is this really a staff that is going to be good enough to get to October, let alone win anything if you do get there? I think the offense is absolutely good enough to do that. It's been one of the best lineups in the National League. Like it really has. But I think that that's also a good transition to another topic that we wanted to get to, which is just guys that are coming back, because Kodai Senga is finally supposed to be back. And that is just a massive deal. I mean, the fact that he's been missing for the whole season can't really take all those missed starts away. But the timing here is pretty huge. And while we often roll our eyes at, oh, this is our big trade deadline acquisition, since I don't expect the Mets to be super aggressive in terms of adding, getting Senga back at this point suddenly makes them feel a lot more viable. Now, again, I'll actually have to see him be healthy because shoulder injuries are scary. And, I just want to see what he looks like. But he was one of the best pitchers in the league last year. And so that is a huge guy to suddenly add to a rotation that isn't that bad, right? With the way Severino's been throwing and Quintana and I are okay. And I'm not thrilled about it, but Senga suddenly makes them, again, in this NL mess, it's like, all right, sure. This is good enough. Sure. Why not?
And he's going to be important because Christian Scott, their young rookie pitcher, is out with a UCL sprain, which...
Tell me about that. I haven't heard of those. What's that? Where is that? That's the elbow, right?
Yeah, it's like when you go to the nurse's office, you just need some ice. Just toss some ice on it, take an Advil, hop back out there after 15 days on the IL. You're going to be just fine.
Yeah. Sounds like not the case for Christian Scott.
Sounds like not the case.
Yeah.
But the reason this is relevant is because with Senga coming back, they wanted to do a 6-man rotation to kind of onboard him a little bit slower, and because it's not like they have 5 clear starters, going with a 6-man is fine. But with Scott out, it kind of complicates things. I think that means Joey Butts, aka Jose Buto, might be stretched back out and return to the rotation. Tylor McGill is another option there. But we need to talk about Clayton Kershaw being back. He is going to start tomorrow night, Thursday night, for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Which,
how about that?
Hell yeah, dude. How he looks, I think, may play a role in the Dodgers deadline. If Kershaw comes out tomorrow night and is totally butt, the Dodgers might be even more aggressive in adding a starter. I think that is going to happen no matter what, considering how many injuries they have and how much talent they have in the IL.